Hello and welcome to the Dreaming and Doing podcast with me, Nicky Raby. I'm an actor, coach, writer, speaker, podcaster and a mum. And in my coaching work, I work with creatives, personal brands, freelancers and small businesses. In my podcast, I talk about success, but not in a traditional sense. I have conversations with those who have built a business from something they love or who have made a pivot in their career. Also those who have built a brand or a job that maybe didn't exist when they were at school, and they found a way to monetize their skills, talents and expertise. I've spoken to loads of incredible people, coaches, designers, journalists, app creators, magazine editors, bloggers, content creators, authors, and all-round movers and shakers. I ask the questions that you want to know the answer to. So how they started, about money, saying no, saying yes, pitching, presenting, putting yourself out there even though it terrifies you, standing out in a busy online world, growing, scaling and making your work for you and your circumstances. The show notes are always at nickyraby.com/podcast and the conversation continues across social media, often on Instagram, my favourite platform, at Nicky Raby. Thanks so much for listening. It's great to have you with us. In today's episode, I'm talking to Kate Greenhalgh, who is a wife, a mum, and the owner of A Year of Dates. She set up A Year of Dates 2 years ago after her husband made her a date jar for Christmas. And since then, in less than 2 years, she sold over 3,000 of the original date boxes and jars and added products to celebrate milestone birthdays and all kinds of good stuff. I wanted to talk to Kate today because she has achieved so much in so little time and really created a fantastic brand. And I know for some of us sitting at home, I've been in this position so many times where I felt like everyone was so much further along than me. People were talking about their success over 10, 15, 20 years, 25 years time. And sometimes there have been moments when I've been right at the beginning of my journey and been really frustrated, will I ever get there? So hopefully this will give you hope today that actually when you put your mind to it and when you sort of get clear on where you're going and what you're doing, you can make huge progress in a short amount of time. As always, come to Instagram at Nicky Raby and join in the conversation, or follow my website, nickyraby.com/podcast. We're well on the way to 1 million plays. Thank you so much for listening. Please rate, review, subscribe, all that good stuff. I would really love it. And I hope you enjoy the episode. Kate, welcome to the podcast.
Hi, Nikki. Nice to speak to you.
And you. So let's start with you. What do you do?
Okay, well, I run a business called A Year of Dates, which has been going for 2 years now. Essentially, we sell date jars and date boxes. So there's 52 envelopes in a box, and the idea is you open one a week and do what the card tells you. That's certainly where the business started from, but it's growing rapidly and we're expanding all the time.
It's amazing. And wasn't it your husband's idea? Didn't he do some, enormous love gesture for you back in 2014? I'm so impressed that he did that.
Yeah, he's one of those people that just gets present buying right, and it's so difficult to buy for himself. But back in Christmas 2014, he presented me with a date jar that he'd made himself. So it was filled with white envelopes, and the idea again with that was, I think he'd even written a poem to go with it or something equally annoying.
This is all pre-children, obviously, because now you've got all those spare hours.
That's his other story, because we actually found out I was pregnant 4 weeks after he'd given me the date jar. So he does like to tell people that he feels that is responsible.
I love that moment. She was so in love with me that we then produced a child. Oh, that was brilliant.
He tells people that when I'm doing my sales pitch at a craft market or something, and I'm thinking, why this isn't probably the angle we want to go with on this sale, thank you.
And then people are so sort of looking at you like, wow, we feel like we really know you as a couple.
Exactly, far too much information.
Yeah, quite.
So he set up this date jar. He still to this day claims that he came up with the idea entirely by himself, but I think he must have seen it somewhere to have got the idea. He filled it full of ideas. They were quite simple. Some of them were quite simple things. A night with no technology. Kate cooks John a candlelit dinner. Kate makes John breakfast in bed. Apparently, I mean, we're still working our way through it. Apparently, there's ones in there where John makes the candlelit dinner and John makes the breakfast in bed, but they're yet to appear.
Right,
so we'll
interesting. Nice one, John. I like this. Yeah, exactly.
Well, a lot of friends, people would say, "Oh, what are you up to at the weekend?" And I'd end up telling them that we were going to play bingo or going on a random day out somewhere that the cards had told us to do, and everyone just loved the idea and was really kind of into it, but always said, "Oh, I wouldn't have the time, or I haven't got the ideas to come up with them. Haven't got the ideas to put in there, so I wouldn't know what to do." And that's kind of where the idea came from, really.
And then you suddenly get into that zone of like, don't worry, because my brand new business is about to launch and we will do everything for you.
Well, it was a couple of years later and I'd actually been on maternity leave, and my job in Manchester wasn't going to work for commuting. My husband worked away a lot. And the whole childcare situation just wasn't going to work. So we knew I wasn't going to go back to that. And I was desperately trying to find something else that I could do that meant I didn't have to just go and get some random job somewhere or do something I didn't want to do. So it was a bit of a light bulb moment, really.
That's brilliant. And did you know that you had entrepreneurial chops in you, as it were? Did you know that that could be a possibility? Had you sort of played around with other business ideas in your head?
Yeah, very briefly. I wouldn't say I thought I could be an entrepreneur at all. I never imagined that I'd be working for myself. But I had toyed with the idea of setting up like wedding stationery designing, because my background was in graphic design and I'd moved over to become more of an account manager in design agencies. So I kind of had some of the skills, and I'd done some designs for friends. I'd done all our own wedding invitations and all the bits and pieces that went with that. So John actually, we invested in a laptop for me, and he said, I want you to, if you're going to do this, let's make it work. And we set up a website for designing invitations, and I had flyers made and took them to the local bridal shops, and then that never went anywhere. It was it got parked very quickly, let's say.
But I always look back on these things of never being wasted. Like, I've tried to do these interview series before on various platforms, and it's just not quite ever been the right formula or the right, I'd start it and then I'd be like, I'd lose momentum or whatever. But actually I feel like it's kind of all led to this moment of now building a podcast, and this feels really easy. And I think once you do find your thing, it just becomes, you sort of know it because there's that sort of flow to it.
Yeah, definitely. And it was very much a light bulb moment, like I say, and it kind of everything else just got parked and it became my kind of whole focus. And I had no idea how I was going to sell them or anything like that. I mean, I was very lucky as well, because John, in his irritating gift buying fashion, had also bought me the domain name ayearofdates.co.uk when we started, because I wanted to write a blog about my dates, about the dates that we'd been on and all the experiences, just for my own. I wanted to write a blog, really, and it suddenly all fitted together. And he actually, I think the first date I pulled out of the jar was buy each other a £10 gift. And it was a week after Christmas, and I'd already struggled with Christmas, and I was cursing him already for this card I'd pulled out. And he actually bought me the domain name with the for the £10 gift, so that we had ayearofdates.co.uk. So it did all just feel like it fitted together quite nicely. And he works in IT, so he was able to help me build a website and make it e-commerce so people could buy things through it. And yeah, it did all feel like it all clicked into place quite quickly. I still had no idea what I was doing though.
Yeah. So how did you move in from like that place of I have no idea what I'm doing to actually starting to formulate a plan going forward?
I'm not entirely sure there is a plan to going forward yet. It's just been, there must be one somewhere, but it is very much like we've very much gone with the flow. We were very lucky at the beginning. Within a few weeks of starting up, I heard through a friend about not on the high street doing a pitch-up session in Manchester, which I managed to get a space on, and I took my ideas along to them, and they joined me up there, and then as a partner, which just gave me a massive boost because it just opened up this huge market to me that I would never have had any access to before. So
yeah, and it's just that kind of pat on the back of like, yes, this works, great, okay, yeah, other people apart from my friends and family who love me believe in it.
Yeah, and like I say, it was just the timing of it was perfect because I'd kind of said, right, I'm starting it at the beginning of September, and I think I met them on the 24th of September, so it was literally 3 weeks in, and I started getting orders within a couple of weeks of that, and they were coming in. I think we'd used our savings for me to buy some stock, some envelopes, some cards. I'd done all the design work, and we bought 100 branded boxes, which arrived at the beginning of September, and before Christmas I'd had to put an order in for some more because I'd sold out already. Wow. So yeah, it was just, not on the high street, that wouldn't have happened because I'd probably had maybe 5 or 6 orders on our website, which was amazingly exciting. And like you say, the rest of it was friends and family saying, oh, I'll buy one. And me standing on stalls in the cold at Christmas markets, trying to talk to people and explain the concept to them. So yeah, not on the high street was a brilliant platform to find so early on.
And I find that sometimes it's like such a glamorous notion when people say, oh, I opened my own cafe, or I created a healthy food business. But I was talking to my friend the other day who works on our local farmers market, and she sells these amazing halloumi wraps that are just delicious. And she's one of these like guru women that you just can go and see her on a Sunday morning and she'll give you like 3 nuggets where you're like, okay, I feel blessed. I feel like, she's given me some words of wisdom. But the amount of times where she's standing in the cold with like a woolly hat on and thinking, none of this is fun, really. And finding those people who really support is a brilliant thing. How did it feel when you first started to sell and that the sales were coming in?
Oh, it was brilliant. I remember, I think my husband was working from home at the time, and I remember going in and saying, every time my email pinged, I was like, oh, maybe this is it. Maybe this is the order. And it wasn't. But yeah, it was, especially when we got the emails on our website that were coming from people that I didn't know. That was really an exciting time. But now it's almost become the norm, which is really great, but at the same time I still get that moment of excitement when I get an order, because sometimes you think, oh, I've not had any today, and then you start to question why, and is this it, and am I never going to get an order ever again? Oh yeah, there's one. And so yeah, it's always nice to get an order. And I mean, I know there's a lot of people out there who say, oh, when you buy from a small business, someone does a little happy dance. That's definitely true, because it just kind of reaffirms what you're doing once again.
Definitely, and because we work by ourselves quite often, unless I'm with clients or recording a podcast, it's a lot of laptop time sometimes, and it's not glamorous, the sort of the writer's dream where people talk about like they're looking out their window to countryside and they're smoking a packet of, well, you can't smoke anymore, but it's not because it's so bad for you, but it's like, you're having the perfect coffee. And actually, it's just a lot of hard graft sometimes.
Totally. I mean, there's 3 sacks of orders in my hall at the moment, because I work from my front room, all waiting to go to the post office. So that's my Monday every week, is getting all the orders from the weekend, getting them all sorted, boxed up, checking everything, getting the postage sorted, and then before I pick my daughter up from nursery, I'd go do the post office run, and possibly pop to the shops and get some food for tea if we need to. But yeah, there's no glamour to it, really. It is just, like you say, getting on with it and getting stuff done. I try and have a day a week where I don't ship orders, and I try and do some kind of business development and planning and preparing things, getting my pictures ready for social media or working on a new product. I try and have a day a week where I set that aside, but it never fully happens. It's a bit here and a bit there. And yeah, the dream is to have a day a week where I'm not sitting in my house, where I'm somewhere else, and I'm not
where you're talking to real life humans
on and emptying the dishwasher when I go in the kitchen. So yeah, it's we're getting there slowly, but I've only been doing this full time since April, so it's still finding my routines and finding my feet, really.
Yeah. What's been the biggest surprise up until this point of running your own business?
Well, I think mainly the fact that I am actually running a business and I now have an accountant and and a business advisor. I mean, they're constantly surprised by these things that I have to now do. Like all my financial side of things, I had no idea about. So yeah, they're always a big surprise. But I think it's just the kind of the recognition, and especially on social media, when I get, when someone buys one of my products and shouts out about it on social media and shares pictures of them on the dates, it's just brilliant to see, and it just kind of makes you realise that people actually are out there using them and doing what I'm suggesting and trying to bring a bit of romance back into their lives.
Yeah, let's talk about romance and relationship. It doesn't come up very often on the podcast, but I think it's really important to be aware of that, especially as a business owner, because sometimes, like when I did my coach training back in 2012 into 2013, I basically had a year of getting up at 5 every morning. I was working full time, covering somebody's maternity leave. I'd come home, I'd do the things, I'd work every weekend. And basically, I mean, Matt saw me occasionally as I went past to the bathroom, but I wasn't able to dedicate a lot of time to our relationship in that moment. And it felt so sad almost that I had to choose that. So I think, especially, I mean, we've been together 11 years, and you have to really make sure that you have time together, especially when you have children as well.
Absolutely. I mean, it is something that I need to practice a lot more of what I preach, because I think because of the stage we're at with the business, where it is growing so rapidly and taking up all my time, that we're the same. John will get home from work in the evening, we'll have tea, we'll get Phoebe to bed, and then more often than not, he's got work to do. Or if he says he hasn't got work to do, I will find him some work to do on the website, because there'll be some product that I want to add that I'm not quite sure how to do it, and I'll find some little IT challenge that I need help with to make him solve.
Yeah.
Oh, you've got 5 minutes. Brilliant. I've got this list of problems that you need to deal for me to make things work better. So
yeah, Matt always gets worried when I'm like putting the kettle on and he hasn't really asked for a cup of tea. I'm like, yeah, no, it is because there are things to do.
Yeah, honest. I'm not just trying to bribe you with things. No, but in evenings I will go and sit in John's office with him with my laptop and try and answer emails. That's about the time we spend together at the moment. And I try not to do too many stalls and markets, because that takes up your weekend time. Then that is family time. So we try and switch off on a weekend, but most of our dates happen at home. We'll put a film on or actually sit down and have dinner together, which might not sound much like a date, but you have to make that. It's making that time for each other. And one of the things that the cards that I make do is a lot of them can be done at home. It's like date night doesn't have to be a big expensive meal where you've got dressed up and spent loads of money. It can be lighting some candles and having a nice dinner together, or just putting your phone down for an hour and actually talking to each other, rather than scrolling through Instagram and disappearing down the rabbit hole.
And being involved in other people's lives when actually your own life is playing out in front of you, and you sort of just need to concentrate on that a little bit as well.
Exactly. And I mean, we try and go out. Sometimes we go out for dinner and Phoebe will come with us, and I mean, she's 3, so it's not exactly romantic, but it's the way it's
joking, not like taking a kid out for a meal. It's not relaxing and romantic. No way.
I know, but at least it gets us out of the house, and we do spend a bit of time together. I mean, we're going to an award ceremony next week, so with that, I'm counting that as a date night, because we've got a babysitter booked. But and we get to dress up and go out and drink wine, so I'm totally counting that as a date night.
Yes.
But we don't do it as often as we should. But like I say, it's mainly doing things at home and just trying to break out of our constant working and being parents routine, really. And it is difficult, but you have to try and make the effort. And if the cards can give people that kind of the ideas, then it just makes it a bit easy, because we find we'll say, oh, what should we do tonight? Or we used to say, what should we do tonight? And then it'd be 9 o'clock before we'd actually decided what we were going to do, and then it was too late to do anything. So it's kind of about just having that decision made for you and making life a bit easier.
Yeah, and I feel like if I can get those foundations of things being relaxed and pretty stress-free at home, or like just living a bit more simply rather than trying to cram all these things into your day, it's like I guess sometimes as well, before you have a child, there's all these things of, you would have just thought, I mean, we live in London, but so I would have never have thought twice about, yeah, sure, your party's in South London, it'll take me an hour and 20 minutes to get there, no worries, we're there, we're coming. And now there's so many other sort of balls in the air that you have to throw, and certainly as well, if you're running your own business, that to-do list never stops.
Definitely. And I mean, I finish work at 4 when I pick my daughter up, and then there's always stuff I need to do in the evenings that I've not had time to do before that. So there is always work to do. And yeah, it's just kind of having to say, well, can it actually wait till tomorrow? And let's, not just eat our tea on the run and get back to work. Let's actually just kind of sit down and eat it properly. And it can wait a little bit, and it might mean that we work for half an hour later on, but let's just do it now while we've got this opportunity. And we do try a couple of nights a week to not do work, and it might mean that we end up going to bed at 9 o'clock because we're both exhausted, but we haven't actually done any work. So it's about balance, and like you say, it won't be like this forever. It's a new business, it's going well, and we've got to kind of keep up the momentum, but hopefully we'll get, as we get into new routines and get used to doing things, it'll all change, and we'll have that more time together.
And you'll be on a private island supping some, delicious cocktail before you know it. Absolutely. I wanted to talk about like outsourcing that you mentioned, and how you've sort of done that, even when you're a perfectionist. How have you being able to put yourself in the mindset of going, look, I know it's tempting for me to do this because it's my business, it's my thing, but actually I know that it's going to be much better if somebody else comes on board with it?
It's been really, really difficult, and it's something I'm still struggling with, really. About this time last year, probably a bit earlier in the summer, John said to me, look, you can't be stuffing all these envelopes yourself. I mean, there's 52 cards per set because there's one a week, and I was maybe getting 5 or 6 orders a day, so that's a lot. That was taking up all my time, and we were having family members come around in the evening. I mean, my very first Valentine's Day that I did, I think I got 250 orders in a week, and it was amazing, but the orders just kept coming in. I'd told Not on the High Street, because I was in their promotion, that I could maybe do 6 or 7 a day, and I got 76 in one day.
I'm just thinking of all the paper cuts.
Yeah, and literally my in-laws, my brother-in-law, my sister-in-law were all coming around in the evenings and stuffing envelopes, and I was being such a perfectionist that none of them would seal them because they were all gummed as well, so we had a sponge system, and no one would seal them because if you put too much water on, they all stuck together, and nobody would touch them because they were scared that I was just going to go off the rails and things. So I was literally doing every single set because no one else would do it. And then John said to me, you need to, someone else could do this. And I actually went to a fulfillment house, like this big warehouse type place, who have machines that stuff envelopes all day. And I sat for 20 minutes and explained to these 2 ladies how my cards went in the envelopes and what order they went in. And they were just looking at me.
Did you feel like you're on The Apprentice?
Yeah, they just looked at me as if I was completely mad, because I was going, these are the envelopes. And they were like, yeah, we work in a fulfillment house. We know. What are you doing? And because they're quite small, there isn't a machine that can do them, so it has to be done by hand. And I'd go around to pick the cards up once the sets were done, and the receptionist would be sat there in this place stuffing the envelopes for me. And they that didn't last very long, because they decided they had bigger accounts to work on than mine. And now a lady who I know, I've worked with her husband's business before, she stuffs them sitting at home. So he has his business, we're doing promotional printed items, where she helps him, and then she just sits and stuffs envelopes for me, and it's working brilliantly. But it's taken me a good while to kind of trust her enough that now all the envelopes get delivered to her, the cards get delivered to her, she counts everything out, she sorts everything, and I get a full set delivered back to me in boxes of 25, and I just put them in the boxes, and it has revolutionised things. But it was John pushing me and saying, you don't need to be doing this, that made me do it. And now with all the other sets, because we do birthday boxes, there's new parent sets, which I've been doing all myself up until now. My brother-in-law's now come to help me out, so he's coming over a couple of mornings a week and actually helping me and stuffing envelopes for me. And it's just about knowing that you have to do it. There's still things that I do. I see every box. I put all the things in the box, but that will soon hopefully change as well. And he'll be helping me with that side of things too. But it's just knowing that you have to do it to survive, basically, and to be able to grow.
And it's incremental as well. You don't suddenly have to go, right, I've been doing this for a while and now I'm never ever going to see any of these things again. You know, exactly. There is that sense of being attached to your business, but also your time. Steph from Don't Buy Her Flowers was talking about this, which I think is episode 33. I think it is, if people want to go back and listen. But she was saying that her time at her sort of hourly rate was much more than somebody else's who could fulfill the orders. And once you start to think about it in that way, it all becomes a bit clearer.
Definitely. And I mean, I remember listening to that episode actually and thinking, yeah, this is so true. I really need to do something about this. But I think for me, as somebody suggested to me, you just need to ship them all to China and get a factory in China will make them all. And I was saying, I won't even let them out of my house. Why? They're not going to China. I think eventually a fulfillment house with me having some kind of control over it will be an option. But we need to be getting the kind of the regular order numbers. I mean, I've got forecasting sheets and all kinds of things now that John's set up for me that I don't understand, but I fill in religiously so he can see where we're up to. And I think when we're at a certain level of orders per day and it's kind of guaranteed, then there will need to be some kind of fulfillment house that has all the elements and puts them together for me, and then I oversee it. But that's the next step. I'm just, someone else is helping me. This is one step at a time, like you say, incremental.
Yeah, so good. How have you known how quickly to expand into different products and different sorts of, because you know that the formula works, because I guess, you have to invest in terms of printing things. How do you know when you've been ready for that?
Well, the first one came after the first Valentine's Day I did, because obviously the sales kind of went through the roof, and we then had some more cash coming in and we'd managed to pay back our savings that we'd invested in the first place. And then I had some money to invest in new products. So that's when the 30 things to do when you're 30 and 40 things to do when you're 40 boxes came along. And now it's just kind of, I guess for me, it's kind of doing a couple a year just to keep things fresh and add new things and give people something new to talk about. Because I think there will always be couples who need date boxes, and there's always new couples forming and things like that. I'm not too worried about that.
But there's any overlap, like, I bought this for this one, and this for my wife, and this for my friend.
You'd be very, there's definitely people buy them for wedding gifts and who've been bought one for their wedding. And people do tell me things like that, which is really nice. But it's like, there is peaks. So there's Valentine's Day, there's wedding season, and then it's about trying to kind of make sure we've got products to go in the other gaps. So the new parent box that we launched back in beginning of May, that kind of is aimed at baby showers and new parents. So hopefully there's a bit of more of a kind of market all year round for that one. And I keep coming up with new ideas, and then I've got a list on my whiteboard of all the new product ideas I want to do. It's just, like you say, it's having time, having kind of being able to invest in them and just working it all out that I'm struggling to have the time to do. So I think probably a couple a year is the aim, just to keep things fresh. But every one I do, then all my orders take that little bit longer to fulfill, because there's all the different types of boxes and different types of products and add-ons and things. So it's just managing that. And I work from home, so my spare room is just full of boxes. There's not much room for new boxes in there at the minute, so it's taking over the house.
You're right. It's finding that sort of how you actually make it all work practically, but also keeping those creative juices and realising actually, we were saying about this earlier, we sort of really know that once you've been doing this for a while, you start to know the peaks and troughs of your business and your industry, and you can then prepare a little bit better.
Definitely. I mean, last year I was very prepared for Valentine's Day, and then Christmas came along, and I hadn't prepared for Christmas because I was so busy thinking about Valentine's Day, and it became quite popular at Christmas, so that threw me. So this year I'm kind of getting prepared now for all of that. And then with the new parent box, that's going to be pushed for Mother's Day, which comes straight after Valentine's Day. So I'm already in kind of April, where I can go and lie in a dark room somewhere and recover before Father's Day comes along.
But you're right, like actually penciling that in as well, because, you know, we can be excited about all the orders, but also you've got to look after yourself too.
Definitely. And I mean, when I look back on Valentine's Day this year, I was a lot more organised, but it was still, I was doing 3 trips to the post office a day with like 4 or 5 sacks of orders at a time. I was just like a machine. The more organised I can be now means that it's easier then. And it's a total learning curve. I'm learning all the time how best to do that. But having someone to help me as well means that if people are ordering other things like the birthday boxes, I'm not suddenly going, oh God, I've got to stop this kind of production line of date boxes and wrap a birthday box up. This is, you know, it shouldn't be too much of a shock for me, but it's, each year is a new, I'm learning new things. And I guess with the new products, I don't want to bring too many out and make it seem forced. They only work if it's kind of like, feels like a natural progression for the product. I don't want to end up with some big catalogue of products that are just forced into each kind of celebration season just because I can. It needs to feel like it's the right development for the product as well, really.
No, you're right. I think sometimes I'm on these mailing lists and you hear like, you know, the new season things and I'm like, oh wow, they've really like stretched out that idea to make it work. And it just, you know, you're right. It does have to sort of feel like it's a match. Has there been anything that's really surprised you along the way?
I think for me, it's kind of been a confidence thing because I've never been comfortable standing up and talking in front of groups of people. Like in my old job, I obviously had to pitch ideas to clients as an account manager, and it was never something I felt comfortable with. But looking back, they were never really my ideas. It was the ideas that a designer had put together. Whereas this, I've surprised myself with the kind of fact that I can go to networking events and stand up and talk about what I do. And I guess even doing this kind of thing, I never would have thought I'd be doing kind of podcasts and interviews and people asking me my opinion. So I think it's a real confidence thing that I can talk about what I'm doing and feel confident to do it and not be thinking, oh God, am I saying the right thing? Because it's something I believe in and it's my other baby, really. Yeah. So I think that's been quite a surprise. I will quite happily stand up in a room full of people and talk about it now, which I would never have seen myself doing before.
I think you're right. I think also running your own business is like the biggest self-development journey of your life. You know, it's one of those that it brings up anything, any insecurities or any skill. You know, it works for you in a really positive and negative way sometimes where you're like, whew, this feels a lot.
Definitely. And I think it's just, I mean, for me, it's being able to say yes to kind of, now I'm working for myself all the time. I was still working part-time in a design agency until April. So I'd get offers to go on courses and these business development plans, but I could never do it because it started at 9 a.m. and I'd have to have taken holiday and it never worked. So I've just been able to throw myself into all these kind of growth courses and finance courses and, you know, even digital courses, even though I kind of know a certain amount about that, it's looking at it from a different angle. So it's been brilliant to kind of get out there and everybody you meet is a new potential, opens up a new audience. And even like going to kind of Chamber of Commerce meetings and things that I never thought I'd be going to, but it's all interesting and all different stuff to try out. And I just find I can say yes to a lot more things now as well. And I might say yes to them and then think afterwards, well, I'm not going to do that again. But at least I know. So
yeah, there's been a few like networking things that I've gone to and I'm like, oh no, this is not the right fit for me. These are not my people. But again, you live and learn. Where do you want to be in 5 years' time?
Well, hopefully with a fulfillment house who are managing my orders for me, because I think our front room may have been outgrown by that point. So either a fulfillment house or a small team of people who can do that side of things for me. I know I need to let go of that side of things a bit more, but just kind of developing more products, getting out there and talking about it, doing the bit that I'm kind of good at. I mean, I'd love to say lying on a desert island somewhere, but I think that's probably a few more years further down the line for that one. But just being able to enjoy this kind of working for myself still. And I always wanted to kind of be working for myself by the time Phoebe started school, which is still 2 years away, but I'm already doing it. So that's amazing. If I can still be doing it and doing less of the packing orders, I think I'll be happy. And maybe I've got my front room back to be a lounge rather than a storeroom.
Yeah, it's always those moments. I feel like I'm dreaming of a time where we don't have plastic and tractors and madness all around. You know, my son likes to play this game called Skips at the moment, whereby he just loads everything up onto the sofa and he says, "Oh, I'm putting it in the skip." And I think, actually, I am going to put it in the skip if this continues. This is a nightmare. In an environmentally friendly way, of course.
Of course. Well, we moved into our new house about 11 months ago, and the front room was our grown-up living room. The idea being there wasn't pink plastic cutlery and dolls everywhere, and that is now my office, and we have to step over all the dolls' houses and prams and sleeping teddies that have been put to bed in the middle of the floor to sit on the sofa if we do want to eat our tea in there or watch anything on telly, and move all the toys off the sofa. So it's not ideal, but it's not forever, so it's fine.
It will all be good. It will all work itself out. If people want to come find out more and get some ideas for dates and buy some lovely products, where should they go?
The website is ayearofdates.co.uk. I'm on Instagram and Twitter with the same name, so @ayearofdates, and I'm on Facebook as well under the same name.
Wonderful. Well, thank you so much, and I'm so glad that I've got you on today, because I know that you listen to the podcast, so it's so nice for you to have your own episode. It's such a treat.
Thank you. It's been an absolute pleasure. Thank you very much.
Thanks, Kate. See you soon.
See you soon. Thanks, Nikki.
Bye.
Thank you so much for listening. I hope you enjoyed it, and I would love to hear what you thought of the episode and share any takeaways with me. Come and find me across social media @Nicky Raby, or you can visit the podcast page, nickyraby.com/podcast.